I got a call, from my
It's already.
Mine's to 6.
Good evening.
Mother's Day.
We would like to call to order the May 13th regular meeting of the Willoughby Eastlake City Schools Board of Education. This meeting is being held in accordance with Section 3313.15 of the Ohio Revised Code. Mr. Tarnello, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bear,
Here.
Mr. DeFranco,
Here.
Mrs. Verdi,
Here.
Mrs. Schatzman,
Here.
Mrs. Menser.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would like to welcome everyone to our meeting this evening. To ensure everyone is aware of the way these meetings operate, we want to share the following. Prior to this evening, each board member has received for their review and consideration the agenda and materials associated with each agenda item for the board's approval. Board members can discuss the items with the superintendent and treasurer. Board members are not permitted per Ohio Meetings Act and Sunshine Laws to conduct conversations regarding board business outside of a public meeting. Tonight will be the first time the board can conduct conversations as a whole regarding the items on tonight's agenda. Board meeting agendas are always available through the district's website for public viewing prior to the board meeting. Community members can always email the board with questions or come and participate in the public comment portion of our meeting. Public comment provides an opportunity for the community to address the school board directly. In order to participate in public comments, participants would sign up before the meeting. When signing up, you are provided a copy of our public participation policy. Participants are asked to abide by those requirements. We will now move on to our agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve our agenda?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve item 2A, approval of agenda.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I second.
Discussion? Mr. Tarnello?
Mrs. Bear,
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco,
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi,
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman,
Yes.
Mrs. Menser.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Dr. Ward?
So good evening, everyone. Today at 5 o'clock, we had the outstanding pleasure of honoring our top students from both North and South High School. We had a nice reception upstairs. We had a chance to highlight, the GPA of each of these outstanding young men and women, as well as their current and future plans. Truly a remarkable experience for me, again, to take a step back and see the culmination for some of you of 13 years here in Willoughby Eastlake. And we're getting close to that finish line. So we're going to go ahead and have Mr. Sattel and Mr. Fry come on up and do a quick summary of the awards ceremony upstairs. But again, my heartfelt congratulations to each and every one of you. And if you're good at math, top 10 at both schools should be 20, but here we have a little bit over 20. We'll explain later.
Good evening, Dr. Ward, thank you. Members of the board, I had the tremendous honor to present at the reception 12 incredible students from Willoughby South. I did want to mention the reception was incredibly meaningful, not just because of our outstanding students, but also because we were able to invite parents and families. But our students also recognized some impactful teachers from their journey. And we had an incredible turnout of just quality educators, which made that reception even more meaningful. So it was great. At this time, I'm just going to acknowledge the Willoughby South top 10. Hang at the end when I'm done. We'll stand and give you all an applause, okay? Nathan Folkrod. Nathan is planning to attend Ohio Wesleyan University and majoring in business and finance. Joris Bowman, he's attending New Jersey Institute of Technology, majoring in engineering. Sadie Naraki, attending Lake Erie College on a volleyball scholarship and will major in biology. Layla Stanek will attend Bowling Green State University and major in criminal justice and psychology. Izzy Andow, she will attend the University of Dayton, majoring in environmental biology. Allie Leskowitz, will attend Purdue University and major in applied statistics and Actuarial, thank you. That tells you how much more Allie knows than I do. Science. Kayla Boer will attend Ohio University, where she will major in microbiology. Andrea Brunetz will attend The Ohio State University, majoring in business on a pre-law track with a minor in Spanish. Audrey Supanik, who is currently undecided on her college, but she will be pursuing an education degree, hoping to teach at the elementary or middle school levels. Grady Munson, who will attend The Ohio State University and plans to double major in biochemistry and political science. Abby Shazavari, who right now is undecided, however, is looking at Case Western University to major in political science and finance. And Dylan Weinhold, who will attend the University of Findlay and will be majoring in pharmacy. Top 10 from Willoughby South, please stand, face the audience, and let's all give these incredible students a hand. What made the evening incredible as well is that we combined the top 10 evening with North. And it really is unique to our district to have the amount of just awesomeness that we had. So Mr. Fry is going to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Sattel. Madam President, fellow board members, Dr. Ward, it's my privilege as principal of North High School to be able to talk about the amazing top 10 students of North High School for 2024. I just want to collectively mention at the beginning, we had each of the students that are being honored tonight had the opportunity to recognize some of the teachers, K through 12, who have been extra special to them on their journey. And one of the teachers from North who was mentioned by a number of our students is our AP teacher, Kevin Boyd. He's an amazing teacher, and he had this to share, which I thought would reflect well on all of our students and could be for any of them. Mr. Boyd said, "These students are the type of students who remind teachers of why we chose this career. They give teachers a reason to go the extra mile because they are willing to put in effort and they deserve nothing less than the best education we can provide. All of them have made an indelible mark on North High School and the South students in turn on South High School." So I thought that was a very poignant statement from Mr. Boyd. So at North High School, the top 10 are Taylor Bard, who will be attending The Ohio State University and studying exercise science. Tyler Burgum will be attending The Ohio State University, and he plans to major in political science. Amanda Dobita, she will be attending Mount Union and studying exercise science. Joe Giordano, he will be attending Kent State University and studying biology and environmental conservation. Cecilia Hunt will be attending Ohio State University and studying environmental and economic development and sustainability. Cindy Hong will be going to The Ohio State University as well and studying finance. Cole Ferris will be going to Ohio State University and studying astronomy and astrophysics. Alex Vitello will be going to Kent State University to study English education, and there's another one we'll be seeing in a few years, I hope. Hannah Watts will be attending Lake Erie College and studying biology, and Brian Wilson will be going to the University of Florida to study economics. So at this time, would those in attendance for the North High School Top 10 please stand, face the audience, round of applause, please. All right, at this time, the top 10 for both schools and anybody that is here on their behalf, although you are welcome to stay for this meeting in its entirety, are also free to leave at this time, as we're going to pause for that if you would like. So once again, thank you, everybody.
I'll be back for the presentation.
Oh, yay.
Invite Ms. Camille Ritt and Ms. Nikki Myers up to award the Walter Horn Awards to a student and a staff member.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Camille Ritt, and I'm a special education supervisor for Willoughby Eastlake. And it's my great pleasure and honor to be able to award the Franklin B. Walter Outstanding Educator Award. This award is given in honor of the late Dr. Franklin B. Walker, Superintendent of Public Instruction from 1977 until 1991, a post held longer than any other state superintendent in Ohio's history. With over 50 years of service as a teacher and administrator, Dr. Walter's leadership is evident in many of Ohio's quality educational incentives and programs. The Franklin B. Walter Award is given to educators who have made an extraordinary impact and contribution to the education of students with disabilities. And it is my great pleasure to acknowledge Carrie Glazier as the recipient of this prestigious award this year. So Carrie. Stand up here for a few minutes. I want to say a few words about you. Okay. Okay. Yep. Oh, she doesn't really like that, guys, but. All right. Carrie is a seasoned paraprofessional. She exemplifies the qualities of kindness, creativity, and dedication in her work. Her unwavering commitment to her students makes her an outstanding candidate for this recognition. One of Carrie's most remarkable attributes is her ability to recognize and celebrate the unique strengths and contributions of each and every one of her students in the SAIL program. She goes above and beyond to create a learning environment where every student feels valued and empowered. By emphasizing their strengths, she not only boasts their confidence, but also fosters a sense of belonging within the district. Carrie's creativity knows no bounds, and that was very evident this past Friday at our art show, when it comes to designing engaging and meaningful learning experiences for her students. Whether through hands-on projects, interactive lessons, or collaborative activities, she constantly strives to make learning relevant and enjoyable. Her innovative teaching methods not only captivate her students' interest, but also inspire them to explore and discover their full potential. We appreciate all that you do, Carrie. Congratulations.
Good evening. I'm Nikki Myers, one of the special ed supervisors. I'm here to give out the Dr. Raymond A. Horn Award. So this award is named after the late Dr. A. Horn, Assistant Superintendent of Public Instruction Emeritus. This prestigious award recognizes students' remarkable performance. Dr. Horn left behind a legacy and a challenge to all to ensure that every student with a disability be given the respect and the opportunities to which they are entitled. This year, I'm happy to give the award to Eric Turads. Eric is a 10th grader at Willoughby South High School. He is very responsible and dependable. Eric is friendly and respectful to all staff and students that he encounters. He enjoys being actively involved in his classes and his school community. Eric has been a member of the morning announcement team for 2 years and does a fantastic job. He is also in his second year on South's track team. Also, once a week, Eric volunteers in the district's preschool. Eric works hard and has big plans for his future. He hopes to work at Mark's and is a school bus driver one day. Congratulations, Eric.
This time, I'd like to welcome up State Representative Dan Troy, who's going to provide us with going to recognize North High School athletics tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, board members. I have to follow award towards him, and they're probably the 22 smartest kids in my district. But what I'm here for tonight is to honor the Eastlake North High School basketball team. You know, it's been a long time since they won their league championship, and I noticed that, and I said, you know, we got to recognize North High because, you know, they've been kind of hanging around in the second division for many years, and this year they actually won the Western Reserve Conference. So I ask that this be prepared, signed by myself, the Speaker of the House, on behalf of the members of the House of Representatives of the 131st General Assembly of Ohio. We are pleased to congratulate the North High School boys basketball team on winning the 2024 Western Reserve Conference Championship. Each member of the North High School basketball team is an outstanding young athlete, combining personal ability and competitive spirit with the highest ideals of good sportsmanship. With admirable dedication, the Rangers have worked diligently toward attaining ultimate proficiency in basketball, and as a result, they defeated a tough Mayfield squad by a score of 75-64 to secure this year's Western Reserve Conference Championship. The Rangers' accomplishments and leadership both in and out of athletic competition are a justifiable source of pride and an excellent reflection on the players, their families, their school, their community, and their coach, Clint Nicholson. In leading his team to victory, Coach Nicholson has not only helped the athletes develop their talents to the fullest, but also instilled in them a valuable sense of determination, perseverance, and camaraderie. Thus, it is with great pleasure we do commend the North High School boys basketball team on the exemplary season and salute the players and coach as some of Ohio's finest citizens. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
This time I'd like to welcome up Mr. Brian Patrick, who's going to honor our teachers rather that have received tenure this year.
Good evening, Madam President, Madam Vice President, and members of the board. To be eligible for a teacher to have tenure, they must accomplish the following tasks. A teacher must have an active teaching license for at least 7 years and have taught in the Willoughby Eastlake School District for at least 3. In addition, a licensed teacher must then earn an additional 30 hours past their bachelor's and receive a master's degree from an accredited college or university. And then finally, that teacher must be approved by their building administrator that they work for. I have the privilege this evening of introducing 10 different teachers in our district this year that received tenure, and I believe a few of them are here tonight in attendance. So when I say your name, come on up and be recognized. Megan Arellano. You can clap if you wish. Kanoda Burrell. Raymond Canali. Nicole Carlson. Marissa Catalano. Mackenzie Meyer. I know more than a few of them had some coaching things they were doing tonight as well. So, Allison Miller. Allison Moran. Chris Rapsowich. And finally, Rhoda Wilson. And I will say for the 3 teachers up here, I know them all personally. They are outstanding. They care about kids. They're dedicated. I even hired one of them, which I'm still very proud of. You can say it was you, Megan. It's okay. They're wonderful people, and they do outstanding things for our children. So great job, guys. Congratulations.
So with no further ado, next up is Willoughby Unites Community Project. Staff and students from Willoughby Middle School and South High School will introduce a community project called Willoughby Unites. And we'll explain the concept behind the program and share some highlights with the community.
Hello, my name is Erin Dotson. I teach at Willoughby South. And in the beginning of the school year, I got called into the principal's office. And he asked me if I would like to work on a project with the middle school. And crazy enough, started working with this girl right here, Katie Riley, who we went to South together. So it was nice to kind of like get back together, build that friendship up again. And as we were sitting there talking about what we were going to do, I came up with this great idea of giving, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers. Well, we tried it and it was super boring. And so we said, okay, plan B. And we started and decided that we're going to do a community outreach. And we decided to discuss who we wanted to talk to. We made some groups and the kids then took over. So I'm going to introduce Audrey, and you're going to talk about maybe who we spoke to and that whole process.
Yeah, go ahead. So I'm Audrey, like she said, and I had like the mayor group, and that was like reaching out to like Mayor Fiala, and we actually came up with like this idea to make an interview with him. And I was like, this isn't gonna happen. Like it's such like a far-fetched idea, but it did. And he actually came in, and we like interviewed him for like ways that we could like connect our community, like the school community, and like the Willoughby community together. And so the video is more just like informative, like what's going on in Willoughby, like how students can get involved.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Edward Policina, part of Willoughby Unites, obviously. But so over in the beginning, when we first had to contact the group, the people, important people in our community, like Dr. Patrick Ward here, which I had to make the awkward call to. But at first it was uncomfortable. We didn't know what we were doing. We had these scripts written down, piece of paper, read off of it. And after a couple of missed calls from other community members, we got more used to it. We got into it. And after that, we got all of them together, come into the building, and we spoke to them about some ideas to work around the community. So there you go.
I'm going to chime in there. I'm Katie Riley. I teach 8th grade American history at Willoughby Middle and worked with Erin on this as well. At first, when you went into a study hall to get some of these kids, right, you say, who would want to come with me? And everybody's hand goes up. And you could be asking them to lick the floor. They don't care. They just want to get out of there, right? And so, you know, you've seen these top 20 kids, and that's amazing and everything. But in this group, it wasn't just the top 20 kids that we picked. We tried to pick kids who you seem shy, or it seemed like you're not, you know, really talking to other kids when they get a moment to talk or whatever.
Or you just had third period study hall.
That as well. We needed the timing to go together with the middle school and high school. But we found our own challenges along the way. But one of them, and when I think of kind of a goal we're going toward as a district at Portrait of a Graduate, talking about those characteristics of the Portrait of the Graduate, it's responsibility, kind of getting out of your comfort zone and those things. And these kiddos, it's very easy to text someone, right? But to make a phone call and say, hi, this is my name, here's what we're doing, could you come in, would you be interested, is hard. It's even hard for sometimes us as adults, right? So we really did have to push these kids, my middle school kiddos for sure, but definitely not with the seniors as much. They took on a leadership role as well. So again, characteristics of those Portrait of a Graduate. But it was a great experience for us as educators as well, because like Erin said, we flopped in the beginning. We thought it was gonna look like this, and we were wrong, and that's okay, you know, and we just had to adjust from there. Really what we needed to do was listen to these guys more, right? Because they came up with the idea of, let's get to the community, and we said, okay, who's important in the community? They had board members, they had superintendent, the mayor, the fire chief. They invited all these people in, and they were like, now what do we do? And so Erin and I were there to facilitate, and I think that's our role as educators more, is to facilitate and give them these opportunities, but boy, they just flourished. They really did. And then, sorry.
They came up with the name. They worked with our art teacher, our graphic design, Mr. Rapsowich. They came up with our motto, our logo. I mean, we said, what do you want? Okay, let's see what happens. And it was truly driven by the kids. And we were just there to kind of like bounce ideas off of. And we don't do that enough, where we don't work with the middle school and the high school enough. But what started as, hey, do you want to try something, ended up being an awesome couple days a week, and the final project was pretty cool.
Do you want to tell them the final, what you did, the final project?
I'm Jack Kubish, also part of Willoughby Unites. And when we first started meeting as a group, we decided that we would need a logo to represent ourselves. So we all, Mr. Raptowicz, our graphics design teacher, set us up with a program to make a logo. And we all made one, and then we decided on a final product. And we finally decided on one, and then we tweaked it to make it perfect so that we could use it.
And then the really fun part that I liked is the field trip part, right? Where we said, okay, now let's go out into the community and get your word out there, your public service announcement. It's kind of what they came up with. Some groups did some videos, some did some posters. And so if you were around downtown Willoughby, they went and pounded the pavement. It was cold calling. They opened the doors and said, hi, this is, again, who I am and what we made. Can we put this up? So you'll see it around in the library, the credit union, the coffee shops, all those kinds of things, right? City Hall, that stuff.
Yeah, so when we nobody said no, which we were shocked. We thought that there was gonna be a couple places that were gonna just push us away. But they didn't, and we managed to get around the community, and like she was saying, places like the Wild Goose, and we even managed to get up to the Dollar Tree, put some up in there. But main product was flyers, and a common theme was texting and driving. So if you see those on some flyers somewhere, you'll see the logo. Sadly, we can't show you. It's amazing. But yeah, look around.
And the big goal is what's next. So this was something that we threw together, and we've been talking about how do we make it bigger? How do we get the middle school kids who are now going to be in high school? How do we get them to now be the leaders and just kind of keep the cycle going and see really what's bigger and better and the next thing that we can do? I know that we were talking about, one of the teachers from North said, like, this is why you become a teacher, and this is why you become a teacher. It's these relationships, these little skills that you're able to work with them, and how nervous we were in the beginning, and then in the end, they're like old pros, right? So it was a really great experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we do next year.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be somewhere in the community in some way, so look out for us. Right?
Just a quick point of clarity, I did answer the phone when you called, I'm pretty sure. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. You talked about missed calls. And then the notion of being important is debatable. So I do have the slide deck. Next month, we'll put it up and we'll share it with the public. I didn't have that tonight. I'm going to take ownership for that one. But we'll definitely share their slide deck next month. And it's unfortunate, Mr. Weegley, that you have to follow that presentation. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Zach Weegley, Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, to present a little bit on curriculum and instruction.
I get to follow that now, which is, again, just amazing seeing what our students are able to accomplish. And so today and this evening, I get to talk about some things that prepare them for success down the road. So without further ado, I want to thank you, Dr. Ward, for allowing me to speak tonight to our board members. Madam President, Madam Vice President, thank you this evening. So there will be a short presentation. I'm going to walk us through this and just talk about two of the recommendations coming from curriculum. So there we are. So 2 adoptions. First one we're going to talk about this evening is the adoption of a new K-5 ELA curriculum. So one component of House Bill 33 was the science of reading and the requirement for districts to align materials and curriculum to the science of reading. The nice piece of this is it gave us time. They gave us a specific list that we had to select from to begin that review process. Our current practices that I'll talk about here, we had several different programs that had components of the science of reading within them, but not one all-encompassing program curriculum that addressed the science of reading. And so we started this year by, once we knew this was coming, we waited on the list. You know, at the state level, some of these things don't work and move as fast as you would want them. But we had a district committee that was composed of members from all of our elementary buildings, our administrators, reading specialists, as well as members of the Northeast Ohio ESC that assisted in this. So it was a very large team that had eyes on this to really review and vet the programs that the state were required that met the list, as well as reviewing our current programs and practices. And I talk about, you think about the kids that we saw this evening, and we saw all their great accomplishments from young all the way to our exiting seniors here in a week or so. And I always think about the greatest gift, and I think of my own children, my 4 children, the greatest gift that we can give them is the ability to read and write. It opens the door to everything else. And so when you look at some deficiencies across our society and areas of concern that we want to continue to improve upon are those components of literacy and those measures. So we have been setting that up for the last several years. A lot of our programs have those components aligned to the science of reading. So we went through the process of making sure that we did completely align with the science of reading and prepare for that. So as we worked through this process, and this was months of work led by this team to review this, they came to a unanimous decision, which I will tell you, if you ever work with several different buildings, elementary teachers, I was raised by one, it's hard to come to a consensus, let alone a unanimous decision. And I cannot commend that group enough. They completely owned this process. They took leadership, communication back to the buildings, bringing everybody along. And so this is where we landed on, excuse me, I've kind of jumped around here, but this is where we have decided to recommend before you tonight the adoption of Amplify CKLA. It's an evidence-based program that aligns the science of reading and is going to jumpstart and align our entire system. And the most important aspect of this, it's all-encompassing. So navigating multiple tools and programs is no more. So now our teachers will have this one tool that can not only assess, provide intervention to our students that are struggling, but also personalize the education for our students through the program. So we are going to recommend this. Now, here's the difficult part, and this is why I didn't really want to follow all students, because of the ask. Okay, this would be a 6-year commitment to CKLA. It is important that we provide consistency, grade level to grade level, and that we fully align the system and that we have cohesiveness throughout the system. So that way, when I think of different students, so we have movement of students. So if a student goes from Longfellow in 2nd grade and then moves and maybe starts at Edison in 3rd grade, there's cohesiveness and there's movement and there's alignment across. So our students are receiving the same type of instruction aligned together so we can see those improvements. So that is where that recommendation is. Now, CKLA, I do want to, and I know I've shared with you already, this is a 6-year commitment. The state will reimburse us because we are aligning to the science of reading. That comes at a reimbursement of a little over $300,000. So that comes off, and then now CKLA requires the payment in full. Okay, so with that reimbursement, the payment up front, when you break apart the year-by-year cost, it is very comparable to what we are paying now for all those other resources that I previously mentioned. Okay, so again, this is a requirement that we had to go through this year, part of House Bill 33 and the Department of Education and Workforce Development. So we have now are recommending that we use Amplify CKLA to align our ELA curriculum at the elementary level. So that is before you. So before I jump to any questions with that recommendation, so I don't want to get lost because then we got to talk about math instruction here in a moment. So.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment that I appreciate and thank you. Stacy and I were recently at a conference, which we're going to talk about later, but other boards were talking about the science of reading and what their districts were doing. And because the list of approved vendors came out so late in the year, most districts are working on this over the summer, and they're going to be adopting right as they come into school. And I know that's the opposite of what we're trying to do here, and I just wanted to commend you and the team for looking at that and being proactive, because I think it's going to make a huge difference in adoption for next year.
Absolutely, and I do want to leave out, so with approval of Amplify CKLA this evening, this allows us to use that May 23rd PD Day to launch. And so implementation, we learned from the committee throughout the process, was very important to them. So our teachers being able to launch and learn the curriculum at the end of this year, going into summer, and prepare for next year so we can successfully launch and we're not scrambling at the beginning, really helps us. And the same goes for materials. So you have to think about all over 600 districts across the state that are trying to get materials from the same list of vendors. We are ahead of the game, by a lot of means, and so I'm very proud of the efforts of the team. Again, that was a complete team effort, and really putting teachers and our staff members in the driver's seat for these decisions. So, thank you. Are we ready for math? Like, that's what usually everybody's favorite subject, right? I know, yeah, right? Come on, so. As long as it's not before fourth period. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. So, one thing, this was a process coming into this role this year. We know that math instruction and the outcomes for our students as far as math performance are areas of priority. So I do have to, previously, this work was started last year where we went through the adoption process. We had our math committee that developed a strong philosophy around what math instruction should look like. They even narrowed down a list of curriculum to 2. So we had 2 finalists, but the committee at the time was split. So it was decided, let's continue the pilot. We had a transition in leadership in the district, so instead of committing to something that we hadn't been able to vet that process, from my standpoint, we decided we'll continue that. Well, let's pick this back up. So we spent this school year with this committee going through the same process. Let's see where we're at. They were able to educate me on their process, which was great to hear where they've gone, why they landed on these 2 particular math programs that really are going to help align to the current standards, as well as raise expectations for how students are going to perform. Like, I will tell you, the math of before, I even struggle with my own children that are in elementary and middle school. It's changed. The demands are there, the problem solving, the thinking that goes behind math now is much different than when we were in school. So again, aligning our materials, it was time. It was time to address those concerns, as well as find a math curriculum that supported a new way of math instruction, not the stand, drill, kill that we have become accustomed to. So the committee has narrowed down, again, through the process of the pilot this year, we had students actually working through these 2 different curriculum programs this year. They were able to give feedback, staff was able to give feedback, they were able to make adjustments, and we were able to teach for longer periods of time versus a lesson here or there. So we got to see an entire unit of instruction and see how our students performed. So based on all of that feedback from our students, from our teaching staff, myself, part of members of our curriculum team, to be able to go and observe that, we're able to see how this was starting to transform instruction and the way we did things, as well as the student experience, because that is something that, a lot of times you'll get those sheets, the minute to win it, let's see our facts, and we're not focused so much on the problem solving and really raising the level of rigor and what we're asking our students to do. So it was nice to see that live and in person. So based on, not only the professional development support our teachers would receive, but also how skills were built. We saw one particular program, Into Math, stood out from the other program for the fact that it gave entry points for our students that have demonstrated they struggle with math concepts and so they may lack some of those skills. So now it gave them an entry point where they didn't feel overwhelmed. Like, if I saw a problem, I'm trying to solve volume, and it was like 50,000, 40,000, and some of these large numbers, a lot of our students, what we were seeing, that they would kind of shut down. Like, it was overwhelming. So now this was a way to build our students up and coach them through. So that before you is why we are recommending Into Math as our middle level math curriculum moving forward. Now, I do have to say, because of the commitment to CKLA, as well as some potential for science of math and required materials coming from the state, we're trying to plan for that as a future. We're going to ask for a 1-year commitment for that program, not because we want to go away from it within a year, but just because of the cost of CKLA. Want to be financially responsible with that piece of it, but also this Into Math is a program we see being on that list if that vendor list also comes out, just because of its rating on Ed Reports. It is green across the board, and it really measures well on those reports. So those are the 2. Again, not the excitement and the celebration we get to see earlier, but the important pieces of really setting the foundation and aligning instruction across the district. So. Again, yes, thank you. Any other questions? Good.
So I just have a small one, and that is
Yeah.
with any new curriculum adoption, and I don't need exact details tonight, but there'll be routine report outs with metrics to demonstrate that they are being effective at the varying age levels.
Yeah. So I would like to thank all of you for the support and the leverage to use the PLC process and that implementation, because that is a continuous way to measure, have those metrics brought out into the front. So not only looking at what instruction and designing instruction, but those weekly meetings where we're getting together as a team, like how are our students doing? What are those skills that they're struggling with? What are those skills that, hey, they're mastering these concepts, how do we make adjustments from there? So that's the ongoing weekly, plus we also have checkpoints that we have started to lay out going into next year. And again, the Into Math, using May 23rd, we have that date held. We can also launch on that day as well for our math teachers at the middle level, which is, we're very, very fortunate that we're able to do that. So as long as with that support, we'd be able to do that this school year, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Weegley. And the finale to the first part of the agenda tonight would be our students who earlier in the year came to us, and we asked them if they would engage in a PBL. And the PBL that they wanted to engage in was if they had a shot to redesign this room, which all of you who are seasoned regulars attend all the time, what would be their recommendation to how this room could look and how this room functions. And so they have gone through their project this year. I popped in a couple times, and I have to say, they're pretty amazing, like most of our students. So with no further ado, our Boardroom Design Challenge team presentation. Right? Is there a PowerPoint? I believe so. There we go.
So we are the student representation of the We Schools Boardroom redesign. And we have been working for a while to come up with better ways to reorganize this room. So the students we have today are first from North.
Hello, my name is Thomas Holman. I'm Matthew Howers.
I'm Taylor Barnes. I'm Sophia DeSolo.
And then from South.
I'm Taylor Zupantis.
And then we have students from Soy.
I'm Layla DeFranco. I'm Oliver Sokamp.
And I'm Nathan Milam.
Okay, so for the challenge, we were challenged with redesigning the boardroom, with students from Soy, North, and South to work together to conquer challenges and present to you. So we are going to walk you through the design process of how we figured out how we're going to redesign the boardroom. So by defining the problem, the main problems of the boardroom are the layout and the overall design of the board. The following slides will tell you more about how we plan to improve and better the boardroom, suiting the needs of you and the community.
Okay, so our second step of redesigning this boardroom was meeting here together. So I want everybody to close their eyes and imagine what you would do to this room. So that is what we did on our first meeting. We came down here. We all had a bunch of ideas and a bunch of things that we wanted to do. And one of the main things that we all collectively agree on was we wanted to flip this room horizontally because it would allow us for a lot more space, for a lot more people, and it serves and have a lot more function to it. So, and along with turning the boardroom horizontal, we would like to add and change furniture. We're going to add a lot more seating, change the desks of our board members, and also you can tell that this room is very bland, it's very blank, so we are going to add a little more life to it with a lot more colors, plants, students' portraits of schools, portrait of graduate, and then along with that, with our switching of it to horizontally, we're going to adjust the technology of it. So as you are sitting in right now, it's not the best form of this room that it possibly could be, so that was what we're going to do. And even for the people that can barely hear me in the back, this will hopefully be different by September or October of our next meeting. So.
Okay, so over the course of our meetings together, we split up into 3 different teams, and all the students were given, they were put in the layout team, the design team, the tech team, or maybe both. So the main goals of the layout team were to get like narrow desks with front panels, kind of like what we have up here. See how many more chairs fit. Get two round reserved table podiums for the presenters. See like what they wanted to do with each wall, because obviously there isn't much going on right now. And then add photos and sketches to the slides. The design team was the people who chose paint colors for the sidewalls, vinyl stickers, new carpet, art, and then we were planning on having art students sketch the 14 schools to put on the walls, fill in a cost slide, add photos and sketches to slides, and then draw sketches of where wall decor goes. And then the tech team, they were the ones who found wireless mics for the presenters, see if the TVs where they are now were good for placement or if we should move them, keep in touch with Ms. Trident, and add photos and videos to the slides.
So for step 4 of our process, we created a picture of what we wanted the boardroom to look like. So as previously mentioned, we wanted to bring the room more welcoming to everyone. So we wanted to flip the room horizontally so we have more space, because it's not only hard to connect with the people in the back, but it's also very claustrophobic seeming. So also mentioned, it's also very dull in the room. So adding more decoration to the room would bring the room to life, be more engaging for everyone, and it would keep everyone's attention span probably a lot stronger. So we devised 2 plans, Plan A and Plan B, which were handed out with flyers. So for Plan A, we decided to have new technologies, like new technology, which will be shown on the tech team material slides, new desks for the board members, rearranging the room horizontally, more decorations than in Plan B. Pictures of the schools will be framed, additional seating by about 50 chairs, new board member desks, a new podium, decorative plants, 2 accent walls, the We School logo behind the board members, and a new carpet. Plan B, which is more cost effective, also has less. So for Plan B, we have new technologies, which will also be mentioned on the slides. We will cut the current desks in half, rearranging the room to be horizontal. Pictures of the school will be framed, additional seating by 50 chairs, adding a podium, decorative plants, 2 accent walls, and a We logo in the middle.
So here's a timeline for our remodel. So work to be done by August is paint the 2 sidewalls, replace the carpet, add additional cameras, move wiring, move the furniture to a horizontal pattern or horizontal design, rotate the tech podium and add about 50 chairs, and we're gonna cut the board member tables in half, and then we can use them as a reserve table in the back so we can fit more seating. And then September work to be done. We'll be back in school now, so we can be more part of it. We'll have an art contest to obtain sketches, or to get sketches for the schools. NCI will fabricate a metal sign for the room. FabLab fabricates a We logo that will go behind where the board members will be sitting. FabLab will also design a portrait of the graduate logo and inspirational quotes on the walls, and we're gonna get plants and other decorations for the room.
All right, so this is step 5 of our design process, and this is where you guys come in. Obviously, we saw Plan A, Plan B earlier, but that is not set in stone. We can pick out pieces and parts that we like from each plan. Obviously, we can do whatever you guys want. Really. Where's the click? How do I click it? Oh, you're clicking it? Okay. And then this is step 6, what we're doing right now. We are sharing our info to you guys. Yeah, we're sharing our info to you guys so you guys can get in our minds of what we were thinking when we were redesigning the boardroom. And then these are the envisions. Obviously, you know, you could see the board members, you guys, we did not move your desks or anything, but they will be moved back over to the front if you see how the seats are curved, and we have less rows so everybody feels more participating. You know, they're participating more into the, what is this called? Board meeting? All right, so they feel like they're participating more into the board meeting. Yeah, and then you guys will go up there and click back real quick. And then obviously you guys will go up there, and then in between you two, we're gonna be the presenter, me. And I would just go in between. And that's what we were thinking.
So obviously with that, there comes costs. So each team came up with materials and things that they would like to include, such as the We School logo out of vinyl, the portrait of the graduate vinyl, plants, painting the side walls, drawings of the schools, and quotes on the walls. The layout team came up with getting front reserve tables, additional chairs for the room, 2 round reserve tables, and a new podium. And then the tech team came up with getting some new cameras, an additional microphone, and some additional cables for this room.
So we'd like to thank the staff that have helped us, and without them, this wouldn't have been possible. So first, we have Miss Myers, who's the district makerspace coach. Next, we have Mrs. Stotler, who's a middle school curriculum coordinator. And then we have Miss Kevern, the director of communications and community engagement.
I would just like to say thank you for listening to our proposals for this new boardroom on behalf of myself and my fellow board members. And if anybody has any questions, well, feel free to ask them.
What do you guys need from us to move the project forward?
So what we need next is for everybody to collaborate and come together on what you guys want, so we can provide that of option A or plan B.
So which of the plans includes most of, there was like a slide with the technology costs, and it seemed like maybe there was like a square in green. Which of the plans goes with which of the technology costs?
I believe both plans have the same technology, but with Plan A, since it's a little more expensive, it has more decorating aspects, I believe more.
So there's not really like a technology?
And there's an extra camera in Plan A.
I would just like to thank you. Ever since I've been a board member, I walked in here and went, it looked incomplete. Like, you bought the stock home from like Ryan Homes and then you never moved in, right? Or like an apartment you're not allowed to paint. So I love the idea. We are constantly trying to find ways to be more engaged and heard. Although the board meetings are the meeting of the board in public, not a public meeting where we can directly engage with the audience, it's important for us to be able to see and connect with them during the meeting. And I think that's something important to consider in your design, is that as much as we would love to have two-way communication or direct engagement with those that attend, we're actually not allowed to. We can only engage with each other, which is why this doesn't work. So I was like, hey, Ryan. I forgot he was there because I can't see him. So thank you very much for all the time and effort you've put in, because we do need this. And this is a very important space where we do a lot of important things for you. So thank you.
I have a question. So do you have ideas as far as how to, what we could do to repurpose what we have here to replace?
What do you mean, like what we already have right now?
Yeah, like if you're going to be using different desks and different chairs or whatever, and how are we going to repurpose this
So
or
we're
sell it?
gonna
Or
keep the same amount of chairs. We're just adding these chairs.
Okay.
So we're not getting rid of any chairs, and then we'll have maybe people with like desks because we're getting new desks for all the board members.
Good idea. That was a good idea as far as the sound, to put it that way, because you're right. It's people close can hear things. That was really smart.
And in one of the plans, you technically cut these desks, is that right? So Plan A, you would get us brand new desks, but in Plan B, to Denise's point, you would repurpose these, cut them in half, use some in the back, and we would have half in the front?
Yes.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Mr.
He could do it, so we went with it, right?
Very good.
Well, thank you guys very much for being the end of this first section tonight. Very brief, of course, 55 minutes, but thank you guys. And we're going to let you guys go now before we get into the next part of the meeting. But thank you again for coming out tonight. Great job.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 4A, public comment. Mr. Charnello, do we have anyone this evening?
Robert Tarr. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I came to Thursday's meeting.
Mr. Tarr, can you please state your address,
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry, yes. Robert Tarr, 4680 Willowcroft, Willoughby, Ohio.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'm going to use the finest Irish butter. Eggs from free-range chickens. The best flour you can buy. And I'm going to make the best brownies you ever had in your life. Oh, there's one detail. I'm adding a teaspoon of our dog poop. Would you eat those brownies? Now, Thursday's meeting about the OHSAA was very good. It sounds very impressive. They have a lot of good benefits, but they also have a teaspoon of dog poop. Do we want to subject our kids to transgenders going into the sports? Do we want to do that? Something to think about. In a few minutes, you're going to be voting on that. And I'd like for you to keep this in mind. Children are God's gift. That's from Psalms. Be careful that you do not corrupt one of these little ones, from Matthew, also from Matthew. If anyone abuses one of these little ones, it would be better to have a heavy boulder tied around your neck and be hauled into the deepest sea rather than face the punishment you would deserve. Think about all that, please. The devil wants our kids, and he'll take us too if we let him. Now, I have a homework assignment for all of you. There's a movie, 2023, called Nefarious, Nefarious. I would like for you to watch it. After you watch it, I would like to have you watch it with your families and then discuss it. I would like for you to pay particular attention to the time in the chamber when Nefarious is discussing with the therapist and the conversations that occur then. It's very, very eye-opening as to the times we're living in today. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Mr. Charnello?
Aaron Reedy.
Okay, 3 minutes. All right, Aaron Reedy, 28885 Chardon Road in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. I'll try to get this in 3 minutes. First and foremost, as we come to a conclusion of this school year, I want to thank each and every one of you, your leadership, Mr. Ward, for Dr. Ward, for your portrait of a graduate. Mr. Charnello, the amazing job you do with the finances. The board members, I want to thank the three ladies. These three ladies right here. Krista, Jamie, and Stacy, for your leadership with two new board members, the knowledge that you share with Ryan and Denise, the support that all of you bring together to the school district. When I was in high school, we talked about who's going to go cow tipping and who's bringing the hogs into the high school for Spirit Day, for the football games. The things that these children are talking about, it's amazing. This just blows me away. I want to thank each of the three of you also individually for what you bring. Ryan, I want to thank you for the support that you're giving to that young gentleman that's bringing the support for veterans. For you, for always being steadfast and always listening and paying attention to what's going on. Okay, so for the last minute and 50 seconds, again, thank you so much. As a parent, my daughter, she came home and was excited about an honors class that she's going to be in next year. Man, I never thought about that kind of stuff. It was, I'm not going to tell you what I thought about in high school. But to see my kids excelling, to seeing how many kids are getting awards, it's not just this month, every single month. And it's not just the students, it's the staff. It's amazing. I'm very proud to stay in this community, proud to be a parent of this school district, proud of the board and everything that you guys are doing. And I really do hope that when you're voting for this, staying in the membership for the Sports Association, you know, the gentleman that spoke before me talked about religious and stuff like that. You know, if Jesus were on this earth, he would accept every single child. It doesn't matter what they identify with. Doesn't matter. He would even love the dog poop brownie. And so, as a very devout Christian, I hope that you still vote yes, because this is a very, very vital and important issue. And as a Christian, I know Jesus would support this. Probably not in the way that we're doing it now, but he loves everybody. Did not judge. The people that he hung out with when he was taking his disciples were not the Christian people, weren't the followers, weren't the believers. He went for the people that were the outcast. And we shouldn't outcast our children. The message that we send to the children, if we do not support this, says that we don't support our children. Not one child, it's every single child. So please, I hope that you take that into account. Thank you all for everything you do. Thank you too for what you're doing, because I know this isn't an easy job. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tornello?
Jared Bowen.
Good evening. Didn't get a chance to talk to you guys after the last meeting, so just to reiterate real quick, if there was any questions moving forward, if you guys choose to go with the Veteran Overwatch in our schools, let me know. I can direct you guys where to find the information. Again, granted, because the guy that started this operates out of Washington State, there are very strict rules and regulations that they have out there. So what he does have is obviously subject to change with our location out here. Again, this is about the safety and well-being of our children, our staff, and our schools. I honestly, part of my language, I could give a shit what you identify as. The problem that we've run into over the past several years is the majority of these people that were involved were associated with groups like Antifa, who, as we know, are domestic terrorist organizations. And I can pull up all the information you need on it. It's a political movement based off a communist ideology. It failed in Russia. It's failed in any other country that you see communism in. My own family fled from Russia during the Communist Revolution. Communist Revolution was responsible for roughly about 90 million total deaths. Just to let that sink into people. Again, I could care less if you identify as a trash can, as President of the United States, or as the opposite sex. But you have to understand that if you're going to go that route, there are certain risks that you are assuming by taking on that role. So, you know, we should be able to come in here and be able to agree, disagree peacefully, and not be jumping down each other's throats, accusing each other of wanting to murder somebody's kid because they identify as a certain sex or with a certain ideology. This is supposed to be about, again, safety of our children, our schools, and our members. And with that being said, go North, beat South.
Thank you. Mr. Tornello, do we have anybody else this evening?
Diana Warner.
My name is Diana Warner. I live at 170 Traymore in Eastlake. I have nothing prepared. I am a PTO president at an elementary school, and last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming from. So basically, I'm here because everyone has a unique perspective on and in our schools. And my perspective is unique. As a parent, I have a child at Thomas Jefferson. As the PTO president, I've learned a lot of inner workings of the school and the district, and then also as a substitute teacher, aka glorified babysitter. So I've learned quite a lot this last year, and I'm mostly here to not address the dog poop comment, because I'm not going there, to thank the board, to thank Dr. Ward, and to thank our past board members, Mr. Reedy and Mr. Roskis, all the way in the back. To the past board, thank you. This gentleman has done, wow, some amazing things for our school. I came to him at the beginning of the school year. Sorry, when I talk in public, I get like this. I am not a public speaker. That is why I'm not there. Thank you. And I'm sitting next to my daughter's teacher. You had to come. You had to come tonight. Okay. So I went to Dr. Ward at the beginning of the school year with some concerns on the district's 018 funding. And he has listened. And although he told me it would take time, it has taken time. But he has done amazing work in fixing and continuing to work on this. I suggest everyone look into the 018. As a parent, I had no clue what the 018 was, so educate yourselves. So thank you to our past board for bringing Dr. Ward here. He has done some amazing work. I was also at Portrait of a Graduate, blown away by everybody that was there and everything that was said and everything that's coming. I'm really looking forward to the changes that are finally being made. God, I wish this didn't happen to me. So yeah, I just wanted to thank the past board and also the current board. I'm not here. I don't do this, so thank you for doing this. And stop. And for just everything you're going to do in the future. I'm very much looking forward to it. So just positive thoughts is all I wanted to share. So
Thank you very much.
Frank Kunstl.
I'm Frank Kunstl. I live at 131 Seabourn Drive in Willowick. I didn't realize we should have bodily functions involved, so I didn't prepare that in my remarks. I'll just go straight to what I want to talk about. I'm concerned about the cannibalization of public funds to support private schools. The funding for vouchers in private schools has increased each year since the program was established to supposedly provide students in underperforming districts with an alternative that might better meet their needs. This has ballooned until hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars are now directed to a variety of programs that move money from public schools to private schools. Nowhere else is this acceptable. If I don't like the police department, I can't get my tax money back and hire my own security force. If I don't like the public parks, I can't get tax money and build a park in my backyard. We shouldn't be doing that with the schools either. Further, researchers firmly established that student progress in these voucher programs isn't any better than public schools and is often worse. And worse yet, a huge portion of this money is going to students who are already in private schools and have never been in a public school. With these vouchers, many private schools are now raising their tuition and telling parents they can afford it because now they've got vouchers. I don't know how much our school district loses to these attempts to privatize education, but it's clear to me that the legislature's goal is to completely privatize education. I want to emphasize that as a taxpayer, I fervently oppose privatization. I want my tax money to support public schools where the curriculum is designed to ensure that every student receives educating on becoming a good citizen and the skills to succeed in a modern economy. If parents want their children to attend school that teaches the earth is only 50,000 years old, or that certain people don't deserve to be members of society, they should pay for that themselves. In terms of focus, I realize that public schools sometimes fail to support some of the students, and I realize some parents have legitimate complaints about that. I think the cure for this is not to have vouchers, but for the parents and the Board of Education and the schools to work together to make the schools better. We should not have students having to leave a school because their needs aren't being addressed. I realize your focus is on our local district, not on the education system of the state of Ohio. But every school system is a part of the state system. And if that system is flawed, then we should require every district school system to help fix it. Therefore, I urge you to join other public school systems in Ohio to urge the state legislature to stop undermining our public school system. Insist on the financial support for public education that the Ohio Constitution requires. And I have to say, I was very impressed with how many outstanding students and how many programs we have here today. And I'm really worried that somewhere down the road in the not too distant future, we will not have the funds to support students at that level. And our students are going to suffer from this. And I would also suggest that you talk to some of your rural compatriots, because those schools are the ones that really get a bad deal because they don't even have vouchers in private schools because they aren't big enough. And so their money's going somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. We'll move on to 5A, board discussion. The first item is conference update. Mrs. Schatzman mentioned earlier that her and I attended a board leadership conference in Columbus a couple weeks ago. I just wanted to briefly go over a couple sessions that I attended. One of them was planning for a disaster session, and it was from the superintendent from the East Palestine train derailment school system, and he just gave insight on things he never thought of when that happened, and now gives him a different perspective for planning in the event a disaster happens in the future. I also attended an OHSAA workshop, which briefly went over the process and structural changes for sports divisions, and a session on legal updates regarding legal matters that affect public education.
So I went to the same conference. I went to a session on legislative updates, as well as one that was conducted by the Department of Education and Workforce, where they reiterated that literacy is their #1 priority, and the focus on science of reading is their absolute focus right now. I also attended something about AI, which I know our district is actually a leader, thanks to Dr. Ward, I think Mr. Weegley, and all of their team. And so as that, I think we need to keep our mind further down the road on policies, things like data privacy, and ways that the board or administrative guidelines puts in guardrails around AI in the same way that we did around social media, the internet, all of those things. I went to a presentation on finance best practices, talked about cash balance policies, having funds for capital improvements, and other things that I think Mr. Ciernello is going to talk about later. And those are the sessions I went to.
Thank you. The next item is board committee update. Dr. Ward and I met last week to finalize the board members that will sit on each committee. Customized learning, innovative programming, and academic excellence will be Mrs. Schatzman and I. The WE experience will be Mrs. Verdi and Mrs. Bear. Fiscal responsibility and operations, Mr. DeFranco and Mrs. Verdi. And communications and community engagement will be Mr. DeFranco and Mrs. Bear. Dr. Ward, did you have meeting dates finalized yet or not?
They're on my desk upstairs, but we'll get them by June 3rd. We'll put them on the website for sure.
Thank you. The next item was board code of conduct. Mrs. Schatzman?
Yeah, is it okay if I start, Ms. Ferdy? Okay, so Ms. Ferdy and I, as a result of our last board discussion, worked on this idea of board and administrative guidelines for communication as we're working to build up these committees. And so I think Mr. DeFranco and Ms. Bear, you guys are working on like a larger board code of conduct as well as kind of specifics in standing up the committees. So I think this work kind of is a little bit sandwiched in between. So what we came up with is you guys all have printed at your seats this draft of some guidelines. This can work within a code of conduct. It could work as a separate component. We were mindful of looking at what our current board policies are in terms of conduct, staff evaluations, our policy. One in particular, I asked Mr. Ciernello to print out because I wanted to make sure that we did not contradict with the policies we already have, certainly. But one of the things that's hard, I think, is if you look through our policies, some things are in one place, some things are in another. So this was really us amalgamating, I think, from best practices from other boards and what we already have in place as our board to say in one place, how do these guidelines work? So we're definitely open to feedback from everyone here, but I think if everyone is okay with what we have as a starting point, it would be good to probably pass this off to the two of you to see how it incorporates into your portion, and then as a board, we'll kind of come back together. And Ms. Verdi, I don't know if you have more to add to that.
You pretty much covered it all. Thanks, Jamie.
Awesome.
So, Mr. DeFranco and I obviously took the OHSAA meeting, so we kind of put down based on priority committees, so now we will pick that back up and kind of get some things together. And do we want to kind of put, Mr. DeFranco, for ourselves, some type of draft for the June meeting? So we'll work together to get something, and this can be a starting point. So thank you very much for getting that together.
It is a good foundation for where we're headed, so.
I think one of the additional things that has arisen out of the work that we're doing is where can we, upon completion and a resolution adopting the things that we're working on to really set the stage for future boards, is where can we publicly disclose it and share it with the community so that they can see and have it as well. So I've already spoken to Dr. Ward and Mrs. Menzer, and we're going to hopefully work with Mr. Charnello with board docs, as well as individuals on our tech teams to see where we can get this up and running and have that kind of working alongside of us so that when our work is done, it can be immediately published.
Sounds great, thank you. And the last item, I emailed and asked everyone to come prepared to discuss dates for a work session that needs to happen prior to our June 3rd meeting to discuss food service contracts. So if everyone could bring up their calendars.
And just to reiterate, I was one of the ones who asked Ms. Menzer to put together this work session. It's really just, again, the board gathering information about the process by which we select our food service vendor before the vote so that we can gather all the information. We're trying to, as a board, shift to this proactive process, and I know it's new for our community and our employees, so it's nothing abnormal. It's really just the way we're going to do business is getting our questions answered in advance of a meeting, and that was really my purpose and goal when I asked Ms. Menzer.
Do we have any dates to potentially start with, Ms. Menzer? No.
So we have next week graduation. We have 2 nights, so that's probably out.
Yeah.
So we're probably looking at Memorial Day week. So probably not Monday.
I think Thursdays are better for me.
That's fine, I was gonna say I could do Tuesday or Thursday, Wednesday, I was not available.
Thursday works for me.
I'm good with that.
Thursday works for me.
6 o'clock?
You're talking about the 30th, right?
30th, I meant the 30th. I was in the wrong month. No, I mean.
30th. Can we do
At
6?
PM.
You guys good at 6?
Yeah.
Okay. And then just in our new model, in the absence of having the committees totally stood up, I think 2 board members should kind of run point on board member questions. I'm happy to volunteer for that role, and
As am I.
oh, great. Are you guys okay with that if Ms.
Yes.
Menzer and I take lead?
Absolutely.
That's fine.
All right,
Definitely not fighting you for it. We're good.
great.
I think that's all the items under board discussion. We can move on to legislative update. Mrs. Schatzman?
Okay, really quick update. This relates to both the public comment and what we talked about last time. So I made contact with the voucher litigation group and asked them if they could present to our board so they can join us. They're not located physically in Northeast Ohio, so electronically, which I'll take offline with Dr. Ward or Mr. Charnello about how to orchestrate that when we put them on the agenda. But they can join our June 3rd meeting, so that'll give us an opportunity to asking questions. And then I would think we'd probably schedule a subsequent work session somewhere over the summer where we could talk about our, we could discuss as a board what we thought about that information, how we wanted to proceed. And then we could also hopefully incorporate some of the stuff about cash balance policy and thinking ahead in that same sort of financial future work session, if that's okay with everyone. Great. And then legislative, again, I talked about Department of Education and Workforce. There's only a few session dates left before they recess in July until the election, and then they'll come back at the end of the year in what is often referred to as lame duck session, where a lot of things are going to happen between the election and the beginning of the year from November 6th through the end of the year. Right now, notable is HB 250 was sent off to the governor. It was a bill that was originally about the military seal, but it was amended to incorporate language about cell phone policies. Again, we already have one as a district, but this is the legislature is putting increased focus as it relates to the governor's state of the state that he did earlier this year. And again, we should probably look at this in long term, make sure we're happy with that as we set up the committee structures. The Property Tax Review Committee had more testimony. They will be taking their last testimony at the end of the month, and then they're supposed to have recommendations by the end of the year. So again, we'll stay closely tuned because that'll change for our property tax owners and also what we collect as a district potentially. So that's a quick legislative update, and I'll be back in June with more.
Thank you. Move on to item 6A, approval of minutes of April 15, 2024. Do I hear a motion to approve 6A?
Madam President, I move to approve 6A minutes.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Discussion? Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item 6B, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of April 25th, 2024?
Madam President, I motion to approve minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
6C, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of April 29th, 2024?
Madam President, I motion to approve minutes from April 29th, 2024.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I'll second.
Discussion? Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Charnello, you're up with your treasurer's report.
Thank you. 7A, monthly financials. As reported last month, we did receive our final tax settlement in April. We are primarily funded through property taxes, so it is expected that we have received, it is expected that we have received 95% of our expected revenues through 83% of the fiscal year. So since we are property tax heavy, it is expected to receive that much right now. Interest rates are now holding steady. We are continuing to lock in longer-term investments in anticipation of rates eventually beginning to further decrease. Our expenditures are slightly or below expected for salaries and benefits, while purchase services and supplies are much lower. This is due to timing, and these line items will continue to be paid over the next couple of months as services are wrapped up and supplies are paid off from the invoices in the school year. We will see a larger purchase this year, if approved. We'll be paying for the ELA, CKLA curriculum adoption that Mr. Weagley mentioned. This is a state requirement to align to the science of reading, and this is to be in place by the next school year. And beginning next year, all COVID relief funding streams will be exhausted, which means those items will either need to go away or we move back to the general fund. I know I've talked about it a couple of times, but I just feel like that's a very important piece. After something's been around for 3 years, you kind of get used to it. And it's finally going away, which means the pandemic went away, so that's good. 7B is the 5-year forecast. This is required to be approved by the school board in November and May of each year. And I want to make sure everyone knows this is only for the general fund. So there are a lot of funds in the school district, and this is just for Fund 001. And this is a snapshot of what we know at the time of submission. And I think what's more important than the forecast is probably the notes that accompany the 5-year forecast, because it lets you know the assumptions that are developed or assumed to develop all of those numbers, because we could put numbers in. If you have no support, you have no idea what the thought process was behind those figures. And the May forecast is an update to November and primarily trues up the current fiscal year revenues and expenditures. We have incorporated some items such as negotiations, ELA curriculum adoption, ESSER expenditures moving back to the general fund, and even some attrition. I would like to state we are in good shape financially from an operations standpoint. However, I do want to point out that we are struggling from a buildings, facilities, permanent improvement standpoint. Our permanent improvement levy, which is not captured in the 5-year forecast, is inadequate for the amount and age of the buildings we currently have. We have millions and millions of dollars in deferred maintenance, and we'll be spending a substantial amount of time this summer to better understand what all is needed to keep and maintain the buildings that we currently have. So I think it's important that we now, with the reprieve from the levy cycle, to better understand where we are from a facility standpoint now that we are able to sustain ourselves operationally. And the forecast is up for vote.
Do I hear a motion to approve 7B, 5-year forecast?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve item 7B.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I think I just want to say thank you to Mr. Tornello, as well as the team that's going to work on looking at the buildings. In April of '22, we sat down with, at the time, our superintendent, Dr. Thompson, and asked, what's the state of our buildings? And when we saw it was over like $25 million worth of maintenance, upkeep, or additions that we would need in the next couple of years. Looking at that dollar amount, and don't quote me, it's off the top of my head, we knew that we needed to address it. And I, once again, applaud you for being proactive instead of waiting for our buildings to potentially not be usable. We're going to think ahead. And I know that this board will work cooperatively together to try to figure out some solutions. That's the problem in the state of Ohio right now, is a lot of buildings were built 50 years ago. And although a lot of homes are 50 years old and doing well, we know the upkeep, maintenance, and the alike is quite a burden. So thank you for making sure that that's being looked at and in advance.
Any more discussion? Mr. Tornello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menser?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. 7C, we have a transfer of fund. This is an annual item for the students of the South Rebel store. They took out a loan. This is their annual payment to buy their embroidery machine. And we actually got to see their Rebel Store Express celebration last week. And yeah, last year they sold over $63,000, and this year was up to $81,000. So that was very impressive to see, just in the 4 years I've been here, the leaps and bounds, just how much they've just grown, and the new items that they're bringing out and introducing. It was very awesome to see. So it was money well spent on the embroidery machine. 7D, establishment of new accounts. This is for an American Cross High School Scholarship program. This is to award a student with a $250 scholarship, and this will be chosen by the South Key Club advisor. E, purchase orders. We did have one amendment, and that was for Compass Group, which is also known as Chartwells. This is our food service management company. We put a larger purchase order in place for usually 4 to 6 months at a time, and because it went over the $3,000 mark, that's why it is on for your approval. And then Easy Facilities, this was for South Athletic scheduling, and they got the invoice before they had a purchase order in place. 7F, student activities. You could see the South High School scholarship on there, and then a couple budget revisions. And next month, you'll probably start to see fiscal 25 on the agenda. And then 7G, donations. WESUP donated $250 to the East Lake Student Council for the Nest Dance. Victoria Short donated a 2006 Dodge to the automotive program at NCI Willoughby. Eastlake Middle School PTO donated $500 to the Eastlake 018 Fund for the 8th grade day activities. Seasonal Sporting Goods donated $500 to Eastlake Middle School's Nest Dance. Josip and Emily Gregensick donated a Kimball Baby grand piano to Soy. This is estimated at $3,200. New Hope Baptist Church donated $350 to the Eastlake Student Council for the Nest Dance. Eastlake North Music Boosters donated $3,980 to the Willowick Music Program. And the Willoughby Eastlake School of Innovation PTO donated $698.87 to the School of Innovation for a field trip transportation. Very precise. That last one was very precise. But thank you, all of you, for donations.
Thank you. Dr. Ward?
All right, it's going to become a yearly tradition this time of year to spend a few moments, brief moments, highlighting the end of the year. This would be our year-end review. I will do no justice to all of the great things happening around Willoughby Eastlake in the short time that I'm permitted to do that. And I've also blown up this font to like font 47 so I can read it because I left my glasses at home. So it looks more daunting here than it actually is. But we have 7 days left in the 23-24 school year, and I thought it would be fitting tonight to provide a brief, very high-level overview of the school year. And as I said, this won't do justice to all the amazing things happening across our 13 campuses. In August, when we began this school year, we committed to listening and learning and assessing the overall state of Willoughby Eastlake schools. We hosted coffee talks, created advisory groups, met with staff and students, and gathered over 1,000 pieces of feedback from our community in the fall. In January, we began to engage our staff, our administrative team, and our parents in conversations about the future of Willoughby Eastlake schools and the steps that we need to take in order to truly lead the way in education. Working collaboratively, I'm happy to report that we committed to assuring our students are future ready and working to complete our portrait of a graduate, again, so that we're ready to launch in August. This work culminated recently at our portrait summit. We had every campus represented, and we worked to finalize our list of competencies for our graduates. Those competencies include critical thinking, collaboration, communication, creative and curious students, resilient learners, and empathetic learners. As part of our shared vision, we committed to ensuring all students have access to deeper learning, as evidenced by the creation of our Deeper Learning Framework, which you will see later in the summer for you to review. This framework will guide our work moving forward and ensure that all students have hands-on, minds-on, authentic learning experiences across all levels and all campuses. We worked this year to revise our strategic plan and identified our core priorities and aligned committees that will assure next year that this work not only advances, but that we're held accountable to the goals that we set as we continue to move our district forward. Next year, thanks to your gracious support, we will implement the professional learning community model across every level here in Willoughby Eastlake. The professional learning community model is a research-based framework that places student learning front and center and creates the space and time for our educators to work so that all students in Willoughby Eastlake have the best shot to achieve, grow, and be engaged across our curriculum. I'm pleased to say that we've created the structures and schedules necessary at each level for this very crucial work to begin here in Willoughby Eastlake next year. We added STEAM programming to our elementary schools next year. Students in K-5 next year will have access to world-class STEM and art programming that aligns to the future-ready competencies that we highlighted in our portrait of a graduate. Art and STEM in elementary school has been long overdue here in Willoughby Eastlake. We committed to revitalizing the middle level next year by moving away from the junior high school model and implementing teaming at our middle schools next year. The teaming model assures that a caring team of adults will get ready to know our students and provide the support that students at this critical age level require. I don't know if you've ever hung out around middle school children. Like wrapping adults around these kids and ensuring that they're seen and known and that they can make the progress necessary is absolutely paramount to the future of our students here in Willoughby Eastlake. Teaming is a path to customize and personalize education, so I appreciate your support of this very important model. We're adding new flex courses to both high schools next year. These courses leverage AI and provide students with the agency to move at their own pace and truly be the drivers of their own learning. Working with the teachers and students, we'll be able to engage with content across all of the subject areas in a far more personal way for those students that choose to learn this way. This model is gaining national attention, and it's something that we should all continue to be very proud of as people continue to ask, what are you doing and why? We have worked very hard this year through attrition to think differently about how we accomplish the goals that we just laid out. I'm pleased to announce that none of the initiatives we're rolling out next year on this list added any additional costs to the district. Again, top priority is thinking differently and strategically about how we move some of these initiatives forward to ensure our students have access to the best. So again, kudos to my team, the cabinet who's here today, for their willingness to have courageous conversations, think strategically, and at times on Thursday during our cabinet meetings, get a little feisty and share some more innovative ideas. Now, this is just a snapshot of some of the systems we're putting in place that can work the work of school. Each building individually has hundreds of examples of things that they've done every single day to create warm and welcoming school environment for our students. I would like to say I remain very proud of our students. They are amazing. If you have a chance and you ever feel discouraged about the future, I would highly recommend you come and speak to our kids, because our kids could rival any of the best across the United States. I also remain hopeful every day. So if you ever have moments where you feel less hopeful, I would highly encourage you to drive around and engage our students and our faculty in Willoughby Eastlake. I've said this on several occasions. High-performing organizations keep students and learning the focus no matter what. High-performing organizations are innovative, responsive, and able to look to the future. High-performing organizations use data to make decisions and embrace a mindset of excellence. And I'm happy to report, from my perspective, I believe Willoughby Eastlake is on the move. So there's nothing stopping us from being the best. I want to once again thank this board for your visionary leadership and your commitment to our students. Public service is hard. Public service in this age is really hard. Yet you all show up each week and continue to put students first. And know from my perspective how grateful I am for your support as we move some of this very difficult work, but necessary work forward in Willoughby Eastlake. So, last page, I promise. In summary, we're going to push on. We're going to remain focused on creating an organizational culture of excellence, an organizational culture of hope and future readiness. We're going to strive to innovate and lead the way in education. We are going to actively work to avoid energy traps and remain focused on students and learning at all costs. And most importantly, we're going to remain committed to two-way conversation between our schools and our communities. Because when schools thrive, communities thrive. This relationship has existed for as long as public education has been around. And so to continue to be a steward of that is some of the most important work we're going to do. So this year, we've witnessed more than any other years a strong sense of pride and community in our schools that are transcending across our campuses. The high level of community engagement this year and the portrait of a graduate work has been a unifying exercise for us all. As a result, we'll see Willoughby Eastlake schools in our 7 communities continue to rally around our shared vision, and we truly indeed work every day to be one school district. So I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to everyone who has tirelessly worked to give their time to make our schools a better place. We can't do it without the support and help of our parents, community, teachers, the board, and our educators. So after 1 year, I've come to see this as a special place. I encourage everyone to please have a restful summer, because it's coming in 6 days. And most importantly, be assured that this next couple of months, we're going to continue to work equally as hard to make sure that next year is as successful, if not better, than this one. So again, thank you very much.
Did you put a place for applause?
No, but you can go ahead. Now we get to do the next part.
You're still up.
All right, this is typically what you remind me. Item 9 is Public School Works. This is our software system that supports a lot of our compliance-oriented items.
Do I hear a motion to approve 9A?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve 9A Public School Work Services Agreement.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menser?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'm not sure item 9B needs any further description. This would be membership in Ohio Athletic Association.
Do I hear a motion to approve 9B?
Madam President, I motion to approve 9B.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I second.
Discussion?
I just want to thank everyone on the board and Dr. Ward for helping with the work session that we held last week. And there's a lot of information, and the organization itself was extremely supportive in providing information. We did not have any follow-up questions that needed addressing after our work session. And once again, can't even talk today, I'm so tired. I'm always tired, what am I talking about? I really appreciate the fact that we were able to have conversations about it, and that's one of the hardest things about being on the board. There's been many things that I agree with, disagree with. At the end of the day, being able to talk it through, challenge each other to think different ways allows us to arrive at the best decision for the district. So just a high five and a thank you to the board for also embracing the board framework, which supports our ability to have these conversations proactively and in the manner by which we should be leading as role models. Thank you.
And I think you deserve a thank you for
Yes.
all of your work as like the go-between between our district and our board and OHSAA. I know it was a lot of work, and you sort of mentioned it earlier that the two of you were busy with that work session. Yes, that is not an excuse. That is real, that you did all of that work, both of you guys, preparing for that meeting. And makes perfect sense that the other things were priority number 2. So appreciate everything you guys did, because I didn't have the time last week to do what you did on short notice. Thank you.
And at the end of the day, I think us being new, myself and Denise, and the community, knowing we are new, and understanding we want to know everything in order to keep our children safe, especially our girls. Because if our girls, because we learned last week, that there are trans women in sports right now. Who's to say that there isn't one of our students that makes it to the state level and has to compete against her? I think it got us all, as a community, our brainwaves thinking, we were moving, we're all coming from different walks of life. And I've known what my vote was going to be months ago. And I wanted to make sure that I was going around the right way, that I felt the best. And I think we accomplished that. We got the community thinking. We've seen all the comments on the Facebooks. The good, the bad, the ugly. And the ugly and bad isn't necessary. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We all should love each other. I love everyone that made comments. Doesn't matter at the end of the day. We're public figures.
Yes, I was actually very impressed with the passionate feedback from parents. I really love the involvement of the parents. Really appreciated that. And I appreciate y'all reiterating that this was a work session so that we could gather all the information and make an informed decision. And we represent the parents, and the kids, and the community, and the parents, and so your feedback, we listen to your feedback, and so thank you so much for articulating that. And Krista, another kudos to you. You did a great job, and I really love how we work together and bring our heads together on things like this. So
I would like to see. I know when we had our executive session, we were like, we've never seen this many emails in our lives.
Yeah,
we would like to see that more.
Yeah,
Where's all the
absolutely.
passion for everything else in the community?
Yeah.
We
But
need
not
more
the
passion.
40,000 emails that a former board member had recommended.
I'm still waiting for 39,399 of those.
Yeah, and also, this is near and dear to my heart. I'm being redundant saying this, but I was very involved with school myself. It made school fun for me. My kids were athletes, and so, that's something I really put myself in the same shoes as some of the parents. So, again, thanks.
Any more discussion? Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menser?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
For item 9C, this is just the creation of a hybrid principal. We restructured the administrative assignments, and so as a result, we're going to have one individual who's here tonight getting approved that will go between Jefferson and Eastlake Middle instead of traveling between Longfellow and Jefferson. So it just made more sense to shuffle some things around. And so, again, by redistributing resources, we were able to make that possible. And so in order to do that, though, to be principal at both levels, we need to create that particular job.
Do I hear a motion to approve 9C, elementary middle school assistant principal salary schedule?
Madam President, I move to approve 9C, Assistant Principal Salary Schedule for Elementary Middle School.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menser?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item 9D would be our realignment of the administrative and exempt employee compensation plans following negotiation. It's a typical experience to go ahead and update the administrative guidelines as well as administrative salary schedules to align with what we did with the teachers union.
Do I hear a motion to approve 9D?
Madam President, I motion to approve item 9D.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I second 9D.
Discussion? Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menser?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Really gotta learn to share up here with this microphone. Item 9E, this would be the K-5 ELA curriculum that Mr. Weegley laid out earlier. It talks about the importance of systemic coherence in our ELA curriculum, not just complying with the required mandates in law, but also ensuring that our students have access, again, to a very clear, well-aligned, articulate curriculum that's predictable over the next 6 years.
Do I hear a motion to approve 9E K-5 ELA adoption?
Madam President, I motion to approve 9E.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I will second that.
Discussion?
I just wanted to again thank all the work that went into the thoughtfulness of this curriculum, the presentation here tonight. And I do want to reiterate that lots of times when we hear something coming from the legislature and we say, oh, it's being funded, that as was pointed out tonight, as we heard when we heard directly from the Department of Education and Workforce, there is some funding. That funding does not cover the cost of the programming that is required on the approved vendor list. I don't think it covers any of the costs, at least what I'm hearing from districts. So I appreciate that our district was able to be thoughtful and without increasing costs overall, come up with a solution where we could take the money from the state and things we were using in other programs and switch to what we know is going to work for our students. And again, just putting them first, but without, sacrificing more dollars from our taxpayers. So being creative about those solutions is very much appreciated.
I think the new curriculums provides us an opportunity uniquely as a board and then administration to reset how we as a board and the administrators discuss academics and academic progress. And that's a conversation that we know as a group of 5 we need and want to have more of. And I would ask our committee that oversees the curriculum to really hone in on some report out dates, the metrics that are available, and really be diligent in reporting out, because I know as a board member who's not on that committee, I really want to know this curriculum's working. And I think that's really important that we adopt curriculums, we have amazing staff, and we are accountable to our community and more importantly to our students. So I would just ask that whoever serves on that committee, if you could, by the beginning of the school year, let us know like what could be expected, when, why, how, and what does that information mean. So we can maybe do some research in advance when those reports come. We can have informed conversations about how we're moving the needle.
I totally agree with that. I ditto what you just said.
Thank you. Mr. Charnello?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menser?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
So along those lines, 9F would be the middle school math curriculum. Again, a math curriculum for our middle level is relatively new and urgent and aligned to the state standards, which we all know ultimately students are assessed on. So we're excited to continue to move that work forward.
Do I hear a motion to approve 9F middle school math curriculum?
I move to approve 9F middle school math curriculum adoption.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I just appreciate also the approach because, again, what we heard was they want to do at the state level a science of math in the same way as a science of reading. So I think it's extremely smart decision-making to say, yes, we need to align better to the state standards, but to do it for a year because there could be more things coming at the state level, and we want to, again, be wise with our investment. So thank you to everyone.
Yes, I really look forward to a good report on that because, there's room for improvement, and we definitely want to, as was stated before, move that needle, and so we're really looking forward to some good information on that.
Thank Thank you. Mr. Tornillo?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, item 9G would be special service agreement for a student outside the scope of our curriculum for special education. Item 9H would be the adoption of the following policies.
You are still up.
Oh, look at that. There's more. Item 10A, the administrative personnel. I'd like to just take a minute and introduce two of our new hires. David Everly, who's back there tonight. He will be serving on our Jefferson and East Lake Middle Campus. Currently is one of our employees working at Longfellow. And he runs quite an amazing program there. So I'm excited to see him continue to impact kids in a positive way. And he did a lot of administrative interning for us this year. Never said no. I mean, and so anytime we asked him, we said, can you go help in a pinch? And so then we asked him, are you really sure you want to do this? And he said, absolutely, without hesitation. And so he's just really a great addition. And then Anthony Forfia, I believe is how you say it. Welcome, replacing Julie Blair at Royal View as assistant principal. Item 10B would be our certified personnel. You'll see some of our new hires as we're looking at vacancies listed there. And then getting a head start next year, you'll see our substitute list, expansive and ready to go, but first summer before we ask them to come and do work. So you'll see that there. Item 10C is our classified personnel. Again, of note in there, some work for summer, student monitors, new aides. And then lastly, 10D would be our supplemental contracts, updated as they come in. And then 11A, which is the first read of the following policy regarding Northern Career Institute Graham Leach Billy Act, which I'm not going to say again because I have no idea really. Security plan.
Thank you. We'll move on to 12A, meeting notification. The next regular Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 3rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. here at the Administration Building, 35353 Curtis Boulevard. 13A, do I hear a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve item 13A.
Do I hear a second?
Madam President, I second.
Discussion? Mr. Tornillo?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
Yes.
Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
14A, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Madam President, I make a motion for 14A.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Mr. Tornillo?
Mrs. Bear?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
I really want to say no.
Do it.
We have all night, it's okay.
No.
All right. Mrs. Verdi?
Yes.
Mrs. Schatzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Menzer?
Yes.
We are adjourned on a 4-1 vote at 7:53.